He has a 1-1 count. That one struck high. Left side. That one's going. That's out of here off the You have to be kidding me. Fireworks. Here you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to a High and Tide edition here for you. We've got a little fun experiment, not experiment, but we got some fun stuff we're doing here right on our channel here. Thanks for joining us. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, all that kind of jazz. A lot of fun stuff coming your way as we dive into our Class 2A team rankings. That's right. It's now time to reveal them here for you. So let's go ahead and we're going to dive into that. Cade Nissen and myself, Andrew Brown, we're going to jump into there. And this is the rankings by our rankers. Guys who have been doing this for quite some time, you know, from coaches to media guys. I mean, we tried to get a good crop of guys that knew the game very well, that have been around it for quite some time. And hey, this is going to be a fun one here. Again, don't forget all these brought to you by the great folks at Victory Mounds at victorymounds.com. Check them out today. Also checking out the great folks at Hitting Approach. And again, if you're a coach, take your analytic game, take your scouting game to the next level with Hitting Approach. Simple app, cost effective. Check it out. Anyway, Cade, and man, we're diving into 2A, and 2A last year was that class that we got to state tournament time and we go, what do we do? You know, we had a Beckman Catholic team that we just didn't know about. They're certainly on a tear, but then you had big teams like Mid Prairie, Van Meter not make it. So you just kind of went, oh, who are we gonna go with? What's this? Who's the favorite here? So I think that we're going to get a little bit, we're going to get a little less than that, obviously, as we start the season. But man, certainly all those teams bring back something to the table, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Andrew, we've got our top 16 preseason teams in Class 2A, a bonus team, 3A, 4A. We only had 15, so our Class 2A ranker did you guys a favor, threw an extra team in there. We included it. Super excited for that. Let's get into some very quick announcements here. Opening day, May 13th. Plenty of good games across the state. Super excited to get going. IA Baseball is your number one place to follow everything and anything Iowa high school baseball this summer. Go ahead and comment your squad, Class 2A fans. Who are we hitting here? Who's watching this from where? We've got 16 teams we're going to mention. There's plenty unmentioned that could very well hop into the rankings. We'll have weekly rankings all throughout the season. Again, we're doing anything and everything we can to make Iowa high school baseball as big as it should be. There's plenty of great talent, plenty of great programs, coaches, athletes, parents. We want to show you guys the love, and that's what we're going to try and do this summer. Our preseason practice tour, we're hitting a Class 2A team tomorrow in Seidel. I guess it'll be today when you guys are watching this. Other Class 2A teams, reach out to us at IA Baseball or my own page, Andrew's own page. We'll try and get something set up. Sadly, there's only two of us, and there's tons of you guys, but we're going to hit as many as possible because you guys all deserve it. Some great content that we've got coming this summer. But let's get right into it. 16 teams. We're going to do 16 through 11 in our first section. We'll run through them briefly, and then we'll get some of Andrew's thoughts. Let's get right into it. So this is the big moment. Class 2A baseball fans, here we go. 16 through 11 right here. As you can see, our bonus team, Des Moines Christian, they are the one team on this list that was under 500 last year. Plenty of young talent. This is a good spot for them at 16. I have no gripe with them inside of our rankings. Williamsburg, another team that competes well. Andrew, we obviously followed them in St. Louis. Great program. Tons of fun. They were a quarterfinalist last year. We've got 3 state tournament teams from last year here at 16 through 11, which just opens up a ton of spots inside our top 10 for teams that maybe didn't make it last year. So that's exciting. Williamsburg, your first state tournament team inside of our rankings. Dike New Hartford, solid program year in and year out at 17 and 11 last year. They lose Varney and Reineke. Still promising talent in Costello and Walston at the plate. Dike New Hartford, always a ton of fun to watch. I did see they reach out to us on Facebook about coming to a practice. I'm going to see what I can to go
Oh yeah.
hit them up. At number 13, West Lyon, 25-3 last year, a semifinalist. Lots of seniors losing though. Going to be a fresh new team over there in West Lyon. They find themselves here at number 13, a team with probably a lot of question marks at this point, and probably why they're right here at this point in the preseason. At number 12, Columbus Catholic, 18-12. Our ranker loves their depth, he says. Sailors can make a real leap behind the plate with a strong platoon in Nick Merrifield, Miles Gardner, and Thomas Steele. Again, 18-12 last year. Columbus Catholic find themselves at number 12 preseason Class 2A. And at number 11, rounding out this group, I talked about them in my Class 2A pitching staffs to look out for. It is Woodward Granger. They were a quarterfinalist last year, 20-6. Plenty of talent leaves, but you have to like Sam Sanoa's prospects heading into his senior year as the team's best hitter, while Brody Worley and Schaefer Hansen look to only improve on the mound. Andrew, 16-11, Class 2A, what sticks out?
The fact that we have three state tournament teams from last year in the mix. That's the biggest thing here. Just kind of puts you into perspective how loaded Class 2A really is. And it just goes to show that you really have to buy in every single year, because West Lyon is one of those teams, Woodward Granger as well. They had a lot of seniors, and they go through a lot of great talent. And then you just kind of start with guys who didn't have as much experience, and you kind of got to start over again. And man, again, same with Dyke New Hartford. You lose the school's all-time career hits leader in Gus Varney, as you mentioned. It's gonna put you down a peg. But I do like Coach Martin. I do like what I see out of this squad. It's a lot of fun that's going to be had by Dyke New Hartford, and I am very, very, very happy about them. And by the way, Williamsburg, I would argue that they went through one of the toughest schedules. I mean, technically, I think by the letter of the law, they had the third toughest schedule in Class 2A, if I'm not mistaken. Again, anybody out there can correct me on that if I'm wrong, but it was a very tough slate for them, and they played anywhere from, I believe they played 3A teams, they played 2A teams, so they played up a class as well, and I think even beyond that as well. So they were 2020, but in the end, it proved that the record only is a slight indication of what the team is. So I think you're going to get these teams are going to be kind of feast or famine for me. They're either going to really explode, and we're going to be like, wow, yeah, look at us. We had them top 16. Or we're going to go, okay, maybe they weren't up there at that point, just because of the question marks you have surrounding them. Ultimately, are they going to be great and competitive this year? Yes. I think it's going to be this is kind of the biggest variation in this group of teams.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's why preseason rankings are so tough. So hats off to all of our rankers. I know so many people will disagree with them, but it's tough. You see a bunch of teams losing seniors, and it's hard to know who's coming up. What do they have coming behind? So I see a lot of teams here that it's just kind of like a question mark. Where are we going to see? I would not be surprised if a handful of these teams or all these teams end up inside the top 10 at some point, just because we don't know. But anyways, heading into our top 10, where we still got some question marks, but we've got some teams that are returning a lot of ammunition, leading off at number 10 with Anamosa. Now, I had these guys way up there in my Class 2A pitching staff rankings, and I'm still going to stand by that. Even with them at number 10 here, they return a ton of innings on the mound. Their top 4 innings guys, to be exact. They return Wheeler and Salna, 35 innings apiece from them. This team had a team ERA of 3.12 last year, and they return a lot of it. In the box, they lose Brophy. Obviously, he was electric, and he hit 431 last year, 66 total bases. He's a big loss. But behind him, they're returning a platoon of guys, a nice balance of senior leaders and still guys with years of eligibility left. Anamosa, a team I really like. They were 19-13 last year. At number 9, Central Decatur, 20-5. Andrew, a team we haven't talked a ton about. They lose 2 of their top hitters, but the Cardinals have a great pitching staff ready to roll. I also mentioned them in my Class 2A pitching staff rankings. Cascade, They seem to be a mainstay in Class 2A as far as state tournament berths go. A semifinalist last year, consistently strong records. Another team that lose some contributors, but you just know Cascade. That's kind of becoming a household name. Like I said, in Class 2A, they earned that spot at number 8. At number 7, Esterville Lincoln Central, the midgets. They slipped a little bit, Andrew. We talked about them last year. But they're returning plenty of talent. Owen Larson, he got on base at a 451 clip last year, and they're always extremely aggressive on the base pass. ELC at number 7 in Class 2A preseason, and Pleasantville at number 6. One of the more young, exciting teams to look out for in this class this year. 28-7 last year. They were a surprise team, and they should have plenty of momentum. The Trojans lose just one senior pitcher that went 3-3, while the underclassmen trio, we're going to be talking about these guys a lot this year, Braylon Bingham, Braden Kennedy, and Kayla Jones. They combined to go 15-1 on the mound. Andrew, these are the teams that are just outside of the top 5. What do you like here? And give me maybe a team. I did this in Class 3. Give me maybe a team that you could see hoisting that trophy at the end of the year.
Oh boy, man, I love being put on the spot here, Cade. So anytime you could do that, please make my life a little uncomfortable. But no, man, what's not to like about every single one of these teams? I will say that if I had to put in this group, oh boy, man, I gotta say, I like Cascade's pedigree. I like what
Yeah,
they had.
it's a
They
good
lose
pick.
some top contributors, but they lost some top contributors from last year, and yet they put up 25 wins. I will say I think Anamosa's maybe a little too low with where they're at. They did grab a number 1 seed last year, and I know that Brophy's gone, but this is a team that still has a lot going for them. And again, I like them, but again, in terms of the team that I think could get there, I think the team who had the second fewest strikeouts in the class, which would be Cascade, I think you bring enough guys that have that patience at the plate, and they're also second in total hits. So, I mean, how often do you get that kind of differential and that disparity? I think that this is a team that's just going to do it. They're so often in the mix that you just can't say no to them. I mean, not like you can say no to any one of these teams, but if you had to give the slight edge, man, Cascade just continues to prove it. And shout out to Coach Marty Sutherland of the Iowa Hawkeyes, his alma mater, and he has talked about him as being one of the top programs in all of sports across the 2A, and I agree with him. Baseball being just that.
Yeah, no doubt. And Andrew, when you look at Class 2A, that River Valley North is going to be electric this year. You've got two teams right here in the River Valley North, in Anamosa and Cascade. We've got Mid Prairie, who we haven't even talked about yet. Again, the River Valley North is going to be a ton of fun. Cascade, little note here, they were tied for the Class 2A lead in batting average with Underwood at a 335 clip last year. So that's definitely of note. But let's hop into the top 5, Andrew. We're going to go individually on these, break them down just a little more. Speaking of that third team in the River Valley North, it is Mid Prairie, team that just seems to be always competing. I was there for their sub-state game last year where they fell. Great host, though. A ton of fun. Great culture there. They're led by Carson Grout, his 80 total bases. They lose some starting pitching, but the bullpen was really good. I had them pretty highly ranked in my Class 2A pitching staff for that reason. A lot of guys who maybe didn't get a ton of innings are going to get more innings this year. I'm excited to see that. Mid Prairie here at number 5. What are you thinking?
I think it's a great start. I mean, I like it. Obviously, you start with Grout and then you kind of go on from there. But they've got guys that have the capability of doing quite a lot of things, and I think that you're going to see a lot of guys step up. You're going to see you're going to see a team that I don't think loses a ton. They've got the firepower back there, and honestly, Mid Prairie. What's not to like about how they ended up? Again, it takes a team. The River Valley, we've already mentioned briefly, River Valley, the South, that's also a strong conference
Yeah.
to really look out for. This team, again, they were top 10 in fewest strikeouts as well. So if you bring back that, you're going to get your on base percentage at least staying the same, if not more. They had one of the best marks in that of top 10 of Class 2A. And ultimately, if you put OPS in the mix as well, same thing. This is also a team that batting average balls in play. They were a top 15 team in that mark. So it's hard to not see Mid Prairie as that program that definitely is going to demand a top 5 spot.
Yeah, there's no doubt. Mid Prairie lose a good balance, but they bring back a good platoon of guys. This next team, though, at number 4, Andrew, this is a really tough spot. This top 4
Yeah.
is really tough. It's West Marshall at number 4, and I could see this team being unstoppable this year. I mean, they return a ton of firepower. I believe just one game started by a senior last year on the hill, if I believe so. Actually, I don't even see one senior that started a game on the hill for them last year. They returned all of their innings. They were right up there in my Class 2A pitching staff rankings, as a lot of these top teams are. In the box, they return just firepower. They ended up one run short of the state tournament where they fell to Williamsburg. I think one gripe you could have last year was they hit 293 as a team last year. That was 19th in Class 2A. If you really want to see this team step up and become one of the elite, I think you want to see that clip raised a little bit to the next level. But when you return almost every single guy they recorded in a bat last year, that clip is going to go up. So that's why I think our Class 2A ranker has them this high. And I love this spot for them at number 4. I think West Marshall, you need to put a star by this team heading into the season.
Yeah, and they just put up a season that's really worth it. And again, I like this team for a multitude of different reasons. I think that they've had a lot of. I think they're going to make that step up. You got Beckman DeSoto, an 8th grader last year with 57 total bases, and you add that with Seegert as well, another 64 total bases on that mark. This is a team that I think is going to just make that step up. And ultimately, I think they were just coming into their own. I think it was just a new crop of guys for the most part getting that experience. In the end, this they had a lot of patience. They're doing as good as well as they could, and they ended up going very far. So I think that this is a team that makes, I think, perhaps the biggest leap out of any team in terms of win total wise. I think that they have the chance to really bulk up and go far. And again, not surprised to see a potential state tournament berth for them. I really like their chances there. And so again, ultimately, yeah, I could see them go any which way on this one, but I like them where they're at. And again, I think the ranker was kind of spot on with this.
Yeah, and one of our favorite opening day games, Andrew, we talked about last week on High and Tight. They get a rematch with that team that kept them one run short of the state tournament, Williamsburg, on opening day. We're going to have our eyes on that one. But moving on to number 3, it's the team you probably think of the most when you think of Class 2A baseball over the last half a decade. It is Van Meter, and they've been winning state titles left and right. Last year, they didn't make it. Maybe the monkey's off the back, and this team is ready to kind of play free heading into a season where they're not defending a state title. Van Meter, they lose some pieces in the box. Derflinger and Speltz and Gilliland are tough losses, but on the hill, they returned a ton of innings. Plague and Cool, Cole Moore, obviously, a guy to look out for. Case and Peterson. This team ranked 5th in Class 2A in ERA last year at 2.25 as a team. I can see that number dropping even lower with the amount of guys they bring back. Van Meter, the Bulldogs, Andrew, they're going to be a ton of fun to watch as usual.
Oh man, and I love Coach Baumover, and I love what they have in that kind of organic mix in there. And yeah, I mean Van Meter has been one of, I believe, 4 teams across the entire history of Iowa high school baseball to win 4 or most consecutive, I guess, summer state championships with 4 from 2019 to 2022, as we mentioned last year, being that kind of a just boof. But you take a look at what happened in the epic performance by Pella Christian to get them out. I mean, that you couldn't ask for a better game, and that was a state tournament like game
Yeah.
that we saw prior to the state tournament itself. But yeah, I love Van Meter is just going to have it. They have a lot going for them. Uh, yeah, I mean they lose some big firepower, but gosh, they're still going to be a top 5 team as they were in total bases from last year. They're still going to be a team that you're going to want to really try and work around. a lot. Again, they lose a lot of guys in the end. I think Speltz was one of the big over the last 2-3 years. He was one of the big names and upcoming names. So yes, you lose those guys. Yes, there's a lot in the end, but this is a team that's constantly in the mix. So I think they're going to retool. They're going to go well. You mentioned Moore. I mean, how much better right now when you got the eldest Moore rocking it with the Iowa Hawkeyes right now, and he's just going to follow suit very well. I think it's easy to spot the Van Meter where they're at. I think only they will take themselves down. I think right now, I think the ranker would agree that it's going to be it's going to be impossible if they win and keep doing what they're doing. It's going to be impossible to take them down at all. So only they will take themselves out of the equation.
Absolutely. I agree. And we talked about that 16 through 11 pod where we had 3 state tournament teams, Andrew. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the Class 2A preseason team rankings did not qualify for the state tournament last year. That says a lot for the depth in Class 2A heading into this year. A lot of new teams, a lot of new faces that didn't make it to the state tournament last year, ready to compete and expected to perform at a high level this summer. But we've got our top 2 teams left. Little fun thing here in Class 2A, Andrew. It's the 2 teams that battled for the state title last year. Again, just a flip of a coin. You're splitting hairs. 2 teams that battled back and forth. Obviously, Beckman Catholic coming out on top, and our ranker has them at number 2 preseason. Again, if you watch 4A, if you watch 3A, and now if you watch 2A, that is 3 classes where our state champion is starting at number 2. I mean, our rankers are all different people, Andrew. So it's pretty incredible that's how that worked out in these 3 classes. So Beckman Catholic, a team, I guess you can say they're number 2 because they lose some pieces and Underwood doesn't. But looking at Beckman Catholic specifically, they still return a ton of guys, and there's good reason for them being here at number 2.
Oh yeah, by far. I love the fact that even though we're sitting here going, well, Luke Shields, who was just the Swiss Army knife of that team, could do anything anywhere. We're sitting here going, yeah, they're still number 2. They're still a top 5 team regardless. Man, going down the line of everything that they've done and continue to do. Yes, this is a team that does lose a little bit, but honestly, I'm not worried. They're still going to hit that 350 plus total base mark. That's been a consistent thing for them over the last 3 to 4 years, is hitting over 300 total bases for one, and right now over 350 over the last couple of years. So what do we got here? We got consistency. Yes, you lose some big guys, some key pieces. Key pieces that we saw at the Senior All-Star Series last year. However, this Beckman Catholic squad, we once again mentioned, Cade, the River Valley Conference, specifically the River Valley North. And what do we got here? Again, Beckman, this was their first year in the conference, and they made quick work out of it like it was nothing. And that's a conference that's arguably one of the stingiest in Class 2A. So not only do they get a new conference, Coach Ryan Mabe comes over as their first year head coach there, and that was superseding a very long list of successful seasons, right? And they've had again a legendary head coach. So what was the question mark surrounding that? Could they make it back? Yeah, they did that and more. So they were there, they made it, they put a stamp on it. I do not see Beckman Catholic, again, this is another team, they will have to put themselves off of the pedestal that we put them on. No pressure or anything, guys, but honestly, I think that this is a group that will run the tables again. I have no doubt about it.
Yeah, the stat that I love, Andrew, 25-9 last year. I feel like people might look at that and kind of shrug their shoulders and be like, that's an okay record. But the incredible thing is they were 15-1 against teams in their own class. They're playing out of their class, and they're not playing down. They're playing up a lot. They're playing teams bigger than them all regular season. It just gets them ready for the postseason. Obviously, 15-1 in Class 2A last year. That's an incredible mark. But that just leaves one team, Andrew, and we've talked about them a lot. The T-shirt team. I don't know. The T-shirt thing is just an incredible story to me. It is Underwood, the Eagles. There's a lot to love, and that's because they lose nothing. talk about them,
Yeah,
Andrew. What do you specifically love about the Underwood Eagles?
I mean, gosh, you look at who they faced in particular. Again, they did what they needed to do against teams over 500, and they did it and beyond. And again, you talk about you talk about Beckman Catholic being strong. 12-3 against their conference, and that's beyond what they've been doing. I mean, the T-shirt thing, I think you got to roll with it now, right? Because that
Yeah,
has helped you go that has helped you immensely. I mean, people dog on it, but good heavens, baseball is so steeped in tradition. Just roll with it. I love it. Don those cheap T-shirts. I don't know if they're cheap, but the T-shirts, don them, wear them proud. They rock it. I will say that Louet is the kind of the guy that we look at quite a bit with the squad, and I get why. It's pretty fun to see him and what he's done, and obviously where he's going to go collegiately. But beyond that, I mean, you got guy. I think this is a offense that kind of got maybe a little underrated last year. I don't know. Maybe that's not the best way to say it. They were ninth in total bases. Ultimately they didn't strike out a ton. When I think that's the big patience factor. A team that now you have a team that was even younger, and they were one of the top teams in terms of fewest strikeouts. Now you get there and say they're coming back, every single one of them. So you just don't see that across the board. The number of guys coming back, and you don't have to worry about things. You can mix up, in terms of games, postseason and otherwise. You can go, okay, well, maybe this guy heads out to the outfield. Maybe this guy hits third instead of short. I mean, these guys know baseball well, so you can pick and place, and you can strategize far greater than I think any other coach in 2A can right now. That's the danger, right? As the coaching staff, you can sit there and go, well, we can plug and chug just about anybody in there, right? And yeah, did their extra base hit count kind of throw you for a spin? Not necessarily. They still had, I believe, 33 doubles on the year, 16 triples and home runs combined. So, this team has capability of hurting you that way. But ultimately, what that says to me is they play small ball effectively. They play long ball just as effectively. So they have been very dominant. And again, they've been a batting average balls in play phenom team as well. So I think this is one of the easiest number ones, which is, I don't know if that's hard to say, but I think
right.
with them coming back, with everyone coming back, I think it's the easiest number one to label it number one.
I think we did this a few weeks ago on High and Tight, Andrew. We had to pick who our favorite number ones
I
were, and
did.
it's so tough to do. And as someone like me who's hands off with all the rankings, I don't handle any of this. I just help post it. I would say Underwood would be my most confident number one across all classes, and that says a lot. And I mean, one person that probably doesn't get enough love is Jack Van Fossen, and he's heading into his senior year. He had a
Yeah.
.26 ERA. Through 53 and 2/3 last year. That's 2 earned runs he gave up all year last year. That is incredible. Underwood, rightfully so. Tons of love. We're going to be covering them a lot this season. And Class 2A in general, shaping up to be an incredible class. We're on a collision course for Merchants Park. And I'm really bummed out that Class 2A and Class 1A state tournament are going on at the same time as Class 3A, 4A. I don't know. It's going to be a tough decision. I'm not confirmed yet. I want to follow these stories of Underwood, Beckman Catholic, Van Meter, all these 1A schools. It's going to be tough, and I'm going to want to be there and follow, especially being in Carroll, my hometown. But Underwood, Class 2A, your number one team. Andrew, that's 3 classes in the books. We got one more to go. Super excited. If you haven't watched 4A, 3A, and 1A, go check them out, whether you're a fan or not. Tons of good stuff. Andrew and I are breaking it down. Become an Iowa high school baseball fan this summer. That is my challenge for you. So many great
Yeah.
programs, so many great athletes, so many great coaches, and we're going to do our best to tell all the stories. Class 2A fans, we'll see you next time.